I'm Juliana Gaeta. If you're new here, I am a board certified adoption attorney in the state of Florida. I handle family law matters and adoption matters. I was also a foster and adoptive parent myself. And so today I am making this video specifically for a family that contacted me. They are going to an AARC. And I thought other people might be in that same situation and that this would be helpful information. So an AARC stands for an Adoption Application Review Committee. And AARCs are convened and held for a few reasons, but one of the reasons, and in this particular scenario, is because there are multiple applicants for the same child. So in this case, what's going to happen is there is going to be a meeting. So to just know the logistics of it, there's a meeting. They're done by Zoom now. Used to be in person. And sometimes they would let you in, and sometimes they wouldn't. But now it's pretty much universal. You're going to get to go into the meeting, but not the whole meeting. They're going to call you in for a certain time, and they might call in the competing applicants for a certain time, and then they convene, and then eventually they take a vote. So what happens is the CBC is the community-based care agency, and they are usually kind of the hosts, and they're going to appoint 5 voting members. There are going to be 5 people who are voting. And they don't usually have something to do with the case. I think at least one has something to do with the case, but the other 4 do not. So one might be familiar with the applicants and the child. And then the vote gets memorialized, and that's sent to the Department of Children and Families. And then from there, it's reviewed. And, I don't know that we know 100% how the sauce is made in that situation, but somebody's going to get a letter denying them, and the other family that is chosen usually finds out, I guess, through phone call or through the case manager, but somebody informs them. And they used to send letters, and the letter would explain how you could appeal that, because all of this is governed under administrative code. And recently there have been changes to it, and the administrative code now references the statute, but before it was really very separate. And in order to appeal an administrative state process, you do what's called a 120 appeal. And that's been done away with by statute. And I have a video talking about that and all the statutory changes that occurred. And in my opinion, it was the solution to a problem that didn't exist, and it's made things infinitely more complicated and maybe harder for everybody on all sides, I guess, family, foster parents. So, but anyway, that's a whole separate video. Maybe we'll do one to follow up on how that's played out since the statute has been enacted. But for now, what I did, and what you can see on my screen here, is I Googled Administrative Code 65C, because that's the code, and you can see and then I clicked on adoptions, but you can see the entire history of this code. And you can see that things were changed pretty recently, as early as a year ago. And so if you wanted to look through things, you could actually see right here that was effective and what that looked like back then. And you can go through and you could see all the history of this. But for our purposes, we're going to look at the most recent. So I click on there, I open it up. Well, I already have it open, but there it is. It's opened again. And you can then go through and you can see what factors the AARC committee is going to be looking at. So one of the first things I do get hired to prepare people for AARCs. And like I said, I sometimes attend as counsel because you're able to go into the AARC for a certain time period. And usually the committee members are going to ask you questions. And it's not just the committee members that are on there. You might have the guardian, the case manager, important people in the child's life, professionals. So they're going to ask you questions, and they're going to ask you questions based on the selection criteria that they're looking at. So I always start with informing my clients of what that selection criteria is and what that looks like. And that was what was recently changed as part of this administrative code. So if you look at it, it references the statute. 39 right here, 3901.375, and those are the factors that I keep saying court, but that the committee is going to want to look at. So I did go ahead and open that statute. Again, I just Googled it, and I'm looking at the 39.01375, and 39 is the dependency statute. And you're going to look at it and you're going to see the best interest determinations for placement. And Those are listed out here. The child's age, the emotional health benefits, the stability and longevity of the current placement, the established bonded relationship, the preferences of the child if the child is old enough, the recommendation of the child's current caregiver, the recommendation of the child's gal, previous and current relationships with siblings, which is important because that's one of the things if you go back in 65C, and we can pull that up, and again, it does talk about specifically siblings. And that statute was kind of overhauled too, the sibling statute. That's 2021, so a while ago now. But since 2021, they used to, and sometimes they still do, but we were treating sibling sets as like a whole, like a unit. And the statutory changes require us to look at siblings as individuals. And so you have to evaluate what's best for each child through that child, the individual lens of that child, and not just the sibling set as a group or a whole. Because when we do that as a whole or group, I have found, and maybe this is anecdotal, but that one child kind of seems to like get everybody's looking out for that one child, and maybe others are just being like followed along, right? Because there's this one child, well, this is what the needs of this child who's maybe the higher needs, and this sibling is more malleable or doesn't maybe have as many trauma issues or whatever the case may be, and can kind of move with the flow a little bit more. And so we're putting there was an end to that statutorily. But here it does talk about siblings, and it references the statute again, right? So considerations regarding siblings shall be consistent with the directives in 39.0137, 39.40145, 39.4022, and 39.4024. So you're going to want to review all of those statutes. They're written in a way that I don't think is like Greek. I actually do think the statute is written in a way that a layperson could understand it. Of course, I'm sure one of the first times people are looking at statutes. So it might be a little complicated, and that's kind of where we come in. But you can certainly, take a look at the statute, and the statute does have hyperlinks to other parts of the statute, right? So here we're talking about current relationships with the siblings. It hyperlinks and cross-references to 39.4024, so you can open that up, and that is also referenced in the administrative code that we were just looking at when it talks about siblings, right? 39.4024 right there. So that's one of the ones that you're going to want to also look at if that's a consideration, if siblings are being potentially separated, and maybe that's why there's the AARC committee happening. So again, first thing I tell my clients is we're going to read this on your own, go through it, understand where the facts of your case fit into this, because those are the questions they're going to ask you, because that's what they need to evaluate it. And then from there, there's other things that we do to prepare and put our best foot forward again, and potentially it's not just about always putting our best foot forward. A lot of times you feel like you're walking into these committees and you kind of have a sense of what they're already going to do because it's maybe played out like that over the course of the case. But sometimes these are course corrected through the court system. So we also, when we talk about putting our best foot forward, are also, legally looking at it from the steps of, okay, if this doesn't go the way that we anticipate or hope or want, what would be the next steps, and have we done what we need to do to potentially be successful there or not? So I hope that's helpful. And if you do need an attorney to help navigate some of this, my office is happy to help. Please reach out to us. Thank you.